Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Prelims Warm Up. In this initiative, we are discussing the important previous year questions which had appeared in UPSC prelims of the previous years. And the previous year questions, they are very important for you if you are appearing for UPSC prelims. It is very essential that you should go through the previous year questions, especially of UPSC prelims. This initiative has been brought to you by Aptiplus Academy for Civil Services, and my name is Shayad Datta. I am the faculty for Geography and Environment at Aptiplus Academy for Civil Services. So let us start with the first question for today. The first question, and today I have focused mainly on geography, physical and Indian geography. So the first question is, consider the following factors. This question had appeared in the year 2012. First question is, consider the following factors. Number 1, rotation of the earth. Number 2, air pressure and wind. Number 3, density of ocean water. And number 4, revolution of the earth. So here 4 factors have been given. Number 1, rotation of the earth. Number 2, air pressure and wind. Number 3, density of ocean water. And number 4, revolution of the earth. The question is asking which of the above factors influence the ocean currents. Which of the above factors influence the ocean currents? Okay, so it is a part of your oceanography, which is a part of your physical geography syllabus. So which of the above factors influence the ocean currents? Now you must be aware about ocean currents. So ocean currents are what? They are narrow streams of water which flow in the oceans, and they'll be having some distinctive temperature or certain other properties like let's say salinity level, etc., and they usually flow in the same direction almost throughout the year. There are many factors which result in the formation of these ocean currents. The most important factor is actually the unequal heating of the surface of the ocean by the sun. So basically you will get to see that those oceans and seas which lie near the equatorial area or near the tropical areas, they get more amount of insolation, they get more amount of heat from the sun. Because they get more amount of heat, so naturally the volume of the water will expand. On the other hand, you will get to see that the seas and the oceans which are lying near the poles, they will get comparatively lesser amount of heat, and as a result of which they will not expand as much as the waters near the equatorial and the tropical oceans they will do. So basically the equatorial and the tropical oceans and the seas, the level of water in those areas, that will be at a significantly greater level, or you can say slightly greater level than the level of water in the oceans and seas which are found in the polar areas. And because they are at different heights or different levels, so automatically we will get to see that the water in the oceans or the seas which are present in the tropical areas, that water will start to slowly flow towards the polar areas, mainly polar seas and all. And as it flows, धीरे धीरे क्या होगा कि it will start to cool down. And as we know, when anything cools down, it becomes heavy, it contracts. And the same thing will happen with water as well. So this ocean water which has expanded at the equatorial and the tropical areas, that will flow towards the oceans, it will get cooled down and it will subside. So this is one of the most important factor which gives rise to ocean currents. But apart from that, there are many other factors. For example, rotation of the earth. Does rotation of the earth play a role? Yes, definitely, because rotation of the earth gives rise to something which is called as Coriolis force. Rotation of the earth gives rise to something which is called as Coriolis force, and Coriolis force will play a very important role in affecting or in influencing the direction of fluids. So when I say fluids, that will include ocean currents or anything which flows, right? So that will include water in the form of ocean currents, that will include air in the form of wind. So their direction will to a great extent be influenced by the Coriolis force, and Coriolis force is the result of the rotation of the earth. That is number 1. Number 2, air pressure and wind. Yes, air pressure and wind will also play a very important role, because the wind direction will influence to a great deal, the wind direction will influence the direction of the ocean current. Winds, for example, the westerlies, the trade winds, the direction in which they blow, they will keep on pushing the ocean water, and that will play a major role in influencing the direction of the ocean currents. The third thing is the density of ocean water. Yes, that will also play a very important role. Jahan pe density of ocean water is less, Jahan pe density of ocean water is less, what does that imply? That implies that over there The amount of water is more, amount of salt is less, right? So from there we will find water will flow from the area where density is less to that area where density is more, jahan pe concentration is more. So this kind of a movement will take place from the area where the density is less to that area where the density is more. So that will also play a role in influencing the direction of ocean currents. But when it comes to the revolution of the earth is not such an important factor, which will play a role in influencing the direction of the ocean current. Okay? Rotation, yes, but revolution, not so much. So out of the given options, we get to see that 1, 2, and 3, they play an important role, but not 4. So your answer should be 1B. 1B should be the right answer, and here I have included a picture which tells you which are the important factors which will play a role in influencing the direction of ocean currents. So there are several factors: temperature or the unequal heating of the ocean and the seas. So latitudinally we will get to see that there is not equal amount of heating, unequal heating takes place. Winds, yes. Continental glaciers, that will also play a role. Underwater landforms, so the kind of bottom topography of an ocean, that will also influence to a great deal the direction in which ocean currents will flow. The continents, or rather I would say the shape of the coastline of continents, that would be a better term to use. The shape of the coastline of the continents, that will also play an important role. Earth's rotation, gravitational pull of the sun and the moon, all of these will have an impact on the direction of the ocean currents. Okay, so for question number 1, B is the right answer. Moving on to question number 2. And this question was also asked in the year 2012. The question is stating, okay, when you travel in Himalayas, you will see the following. Number 1, deep gorges. Number 2, U-turn river courses. Number 3, parallel mountain ranges. And number 4, steep gradients which cause landslides. Steep gradients mean steep slopes causing landslides. So first of all, what is the V-shaped valley? But what we get to see in case of a gorge, the V shape will not exactly be V, but it will become more like an I shaped. So basically these gorges, deep gorges, they are very deep valleys which are found in the upper course of a river. That is, when the river is in the mountains, you will find such kind of deep valleys getting created. But these deep valleys, they will be having very steep, precipitous and almost vertical sides. So very steep, precipitous and almost vertical sides. These kind of deep valleys, they are called as gorges. On the other hand, so deep gorges, do we get to see deep gorges in the Himalayas? Yes, we definitely do. U-turn river courses, yes, we'll also get to see U-turn river courses. For example, I have shown here a picture where we get to see the Sangpo river. What is the Sangpo river? Basically, it is this Sangpo river which, when it comes into India, we give it the name of Brahmaputra, right? So the Sangpo river, when it enters into India, it has a U-turn like this. Okay? It has a U-turn like this, and it creates a very deep gorge, a very deep valley. And yes, that is also something which is seen in the Himalayas. And this is also something which is only seen in case of young fold mountains. Young fold mountains, why? Because young fold mountains means such mountains are still getting formed. These mountains, they are still getting formed. So naturally, since they are still getting formed, so basically the river will not be able to erode them completely. Even if the river tries to erode, we will get to see again the mountain will start to rise up. So basically, this kind of U-turn river courses, that is an indication that the Himalaya is an example of a young fold mountain. Parallel mountain ranges, yes, that is also seen. Say for example, in the Himalayas, you would get to see that there are 3 parallel ranges of the Himalayas. So you have the Greater Himalayas, or what we call as the Himachal, the Middle Himalayas, or what we call as, the Greater Himalayas, which is called as the Himadri, the Middle Himalayas, which we call as the Himachal, and then we have the Outer Himalayas or the Lower Himalayas, which we call as the Shivalik. So these 3 ranges of the Himalayas, they are parallel to one another. And that is also something which is seen in case of the young fold mountains only. Okay? So parallel mountain ranges, yes. What about the steep gradients causing landslides? As you must be aware that the entire Himalayan area, is very, very susceptible to landslides. It is very, very susceptible to earthquakes. Okay? It is a seismically active zone. When I say seismically active zone, that basically implies that this entire area is very, very it is very, you can say, it is vulnerable to things like earthquakes, landslides, which keep on happening every year, right? So all of these take place, and hence we can get to see all the four, which actually points to the fact that the Himalaya is an young-fold mountain. So answer should be D, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 2B should be the right answer. Moving on to the third question for the day. The third question was, this question was asked in the year 2013. And the question is variations in the length of daytime and nighttime from season to season. Variations in the length of daytime and nighttime from season to season. That is due to what? So we will get to see during the summer, the length of daytime will be more than that of night. During winter, the length of day and night, that will also differ because the length of night will be more than the length of daytime. That is what happens in case of winters. On the other hand, in case of autumns and in case of springs, we will get to see that the duration of day and night, they are almost the same. Now the question is asking, okay, why is this variation in the length of daytime and nighttime from season to season? What is the factor? What is the cause behind it? A, the Earth's rotation on its axis. B, the Earth's revolution around the sun in an elliptical manner. C, the latitudinal position of the place. And D, revolution of the Earth on a tilted axis. Revolution of the Earth on a tilted axis. Okay. So over here you understand one thing, okay, the length of daytime and nighttime. Now, what are the two important factors about which, like what you can do over here is you can probably use the elimination method. So out of the given options that are there, one thing that you can understand is C, latitudinal position of the place. That can never be the answer. So you can simply eliminate that. That cannot be the factor which will determine the variation of length of daytime and nighttime from season to season. You are left with the Earth's rotation on its axis, the Earth's revolution around the sun in an elliptical manner. Earth's rotation on its axis. What does that, like what is the result of this Earth's rotation on its axis? Earth's rotation on its axis simply causes day and night. It simply results in day and night. But definitely it is not the factor which is playing a role in resulting in variation in the length of daytime and nighttime from season to season. So the Earth's rotation on its axis is only responsible for day and night formation. Okay, so you can probably eliminate this option as well. So you can eliminate option A, you can eliminate option C. You are left with B and D. The Earth's revolution around the sun in an elliptical manner and revolution of the Earth on a tilted axis. So basically there are two things. Revolution is common to both, but there are two things. One is the elliptical manner, and that is the elliptical orbit of the Earth around the sun, and the other is the tilted axis. Now, which is more important? To understand this, what you can probably do is that it is not elliptical, it is circular. In a particular hemisphere, being more inclined towards the tilted axis, but the orbit of and the axis is tilted. And the other hemisphere being away from the diagram. So in this diagram, we get to see this is the orbit of the Earth. It is an ellipse. This is the axis of the Earth, which is inclined. And because the axis is inclined, just look at here. Because the axis is inclined, we get to see the northern hemisphere is more inclined towards the sun as compared to the southern hemisphere. That is why the northern hemisphere is experiencing summer. This position is what is called as the summer solstice. When the rays of the sun fall vertically over the Tropic of Cancer, we call this to be the summer solstice. On the other hand, in another position over here, you can see if this is the axis of the Earth, we get to see over here that the southern hemisphere is more inclined towards the sun. And since the southern hemisphere is more inclined towards the sun, so the southern hemisphere is experiencing summer, but the northern hemisphere is experiencing what? Winter. Okay, these are the things which you must be aware of already. So the northern hemisphere is experiencing winter, the southern hemisphere is experiencing summer. Let's look at these two positions. We will get to see that over here, neither the northern hemisphere nor the southern hemisphere, they are inclined towards the sun. And if neither northern hemisphere nor southern hemisphere is inclined towards the sun, then automatically what will happen? They are parallel basically. So these are the positions where we call them to be equinoxes. These are called as equinoxes. Equinoxes are, so basically you see, when we have summer solstice, in that case we get to see that the rays of the sun, they are falling vertically over the Tropic of Cancer. When we have winter solstice, the rays of the sun, they are falling vertically over the Tropic of Capricorn. But when we have the equinox positions, in that case the rays of the sun, they are falling vertically over the equator. Okay, they are falling vertically over the equator. अब सोचो कि मान के चलते हैं कि the axis of the earth is still inclined, but ये जो आपका orbit है, this orbit is not an ellipse, it is rather a circle. If we take the orbit to be a circle instead of an ellipse, and if we take the axis of the earth to be inclined, will it still result in one hemisphere being inclined towards the sun more than the other hemisphere? You can understand the answer should be yes, because it is not the shape of the earth's orbit, rather it is the inclination which is deciding or which is resulting in one hemisphere being more inclined towards the sun than the other hemisphere, right? So ellipse को आप कोई भी shape ले लो, मतलब if you take it circular तभी भी ये चीज होगा कि one hemisphere will be more inclined than the other hemisphere. Whichever hemisphere is more inclined towards the sun, that hemisphere will be experiencing more amount of daylight and it will be experiencing summertime. That hemisphere which is away from the sun, it will be experiencing less amount of or less duration of daylight and it will be winter over there. ठीक है? या तो आप opposite भी देख सकते हो. Let's say axis को आप inclined मत लो. Let's take the axis to be vertical. If you take a vertical axis and if you keep the orbit to be an ellipse, तभी भी आप देखोगे कि what will happen the moment you keep the axis to be vertical, immediately you will find that there is no such position जब one of the hemisphere will be more inclined, one of the hemisphere will be less inclined, and when that does not happen, you will not have the variation in daylight. Okay, so over here the most important factor which is determining the variation in the length of daytime and nighttime from season to season is D, revolution of the earth on a tilted axis. It is the tilt of the axis. Axis को आप एक बार सीधा कर दो, you will not have the variation. आप you can change the shape of the orbit. So long as the axis is tilted, तब जाके variation of daylight will be there from season to season. The moment the axis becomes vertical, this variation will no longer be there. Okay, moving on to the fourth question for the day. Answer should be D. Fourth question is stating that the annual range of temperature in the interior of the continent is high as compared to coastal areas, and what is the reason for that? Asked in 2013. Annual range of temperature. What is meant by range of temperature? Range of temperature basically implies the difference between the highest temperature and the lowest temperature. So what the question is saying is this: in the interior parts of the continents, the difference is very high. That is, the range of temperature is very high. Whereas in case of the coastal areas, the range of temperature is very low. I mean, you have very narrow range of temperature. That means the difference between the highest temperature and the lowest temperature, that is very less. Why does that happen? Number one, thermal difference between land and water. Number two, variation in altitude between continents and oceans. Number three, presence of strong winds in the interior. And number four, heavy rains in the interior as compared to coast. Heavy rains in the interior as compared to coast. What can you eliminate first? For rainfall to take place, you need to have moisture. By the time the clouds which are formed over the oceans, by the time those clouds they reach into the land, they start to lose their moisture. So automatically once they come deep into the land, they would have lost most of their moisture, right? So that is why heavy rains in the interior as compared to coasts, that is not something which takes place usually. So fourth option जो भी है, उस fourth option को आप eliminate कर सकते हैं. If you eliminate this one, automatically option D gets eliminated. Option D gets eliminated. Now there are two ways in which you can approach the remaining options. You see, between A and B we have one common. Between A and B we have one common, and between B and C we have two common. The point 2 is common for B and C. So हम लोग अगर let's say for example if we can see what the point 3 which is there, so if we can eliminate that, automatically this option will also get eliminated, right? So let us see. presence of strong winds in the interior. Now, exceptions might be there, but again, most of the winds that we get to see, it actually occurs as a result of the difference in the specific heat capacity of water and land. So you see there is a difference between the specific heat capacity of land and water. So oceans, or for example seas, they take more time to get heated up, plus they will also take more time to get cooled down. That is because the specific heat capacity of water is very more, it is quite high. On the other hand, when it comes to land, land being opaque in nature, also it is solid in nature, so the particles are present much closer to each other. As a result of which, the specific heat capacity of land is much less. So what happens in case of land is it gets heated up much faster. It also loses its heat faster, right? So so this is this difference in pressure. मतलब ये जो heating up cooling down हो रहा है, उसके वजह से क्या होगा, there will be a difference in pressure getting created, and this difference of pressure will give rise to a pressure gradient force. It is this pressure gradient force which will result in wind formation. Okay, so please understand the presence of strong winds in the interior, that is highly unlikely, because in the interior part of the land you do not have too much of difference of प्रेशर. जो प्रेशर ग्रेडियंट होना चाहिए, प्रेशर ग्रेडियंट फोर्स जो डेवलप होना चाहिए, वो नहीं हो पा रहा है, बिकॉज प्रेशर ग्रेडियंट फोर्स का मतलब क्या है, एक फोर्स विच विल डेवलप ड्यू टू द डिफरेंस ऑफ प्रेशर. डिफरेंस ऑफ प्रेशर विद द इंटीरियर ऑफ द लैंड, मैं ये नहीं कहूंगा कि एकदम से इम्पॉसिबल है, बट मैं ये कहना चाहता हूं कि mainly that will be found if you have a water body nearby, and that is only possible in case of coastal areas. So our option, this point 3 can also be eliminated, and our option C can also get eliminated. Now we are left with only A and B. Out of A and B, one is common, so which means कि one is definitely right. अब question ये आता है कि point 2 जो है, is it correct or not? Let us see. Variation in altitude between oceans and seas. Variation in altitude between oceans and seas, and that is resulting in the annual range of temperature being very high in the interior of the continents. Now again, that is a very vague kind of a point, because it is not essential, right? There has to be a difference in altitude. That is not necessary. The land might also be lying right at the sea level. So this is also something which is absurd. So you can actually eliminate even point 2. So you can eliminate B, and you are left only with A, that is 1 only. So answer should be A, 1 only. Okay, 4A is the correct option. So here I have given you the entire diagram. So this particular feature, this particular feature or this particular characteristic or this particular nature which is seen in certain areas which are situated far away from the coast. If an area is situated far away from the coast, तो उधर क्या होगा, उधर हम लोग देखेंगे कि टेम्परेचर रेंज, या तो रेंज ऑफ टेम्परेचर जो है वो काफी ज्यादा रहता है, रेनफॉल जो है वो काफी कम होता है, एंड कहीं पे अगर रेंज ऑफ टेम्परेचर इज हाई and amount of rainfall is less, this kind of a feature is what is called as continentality or continental effect भी कहा जा सकता है, continentality or continental effect, that is seen in case of land. So this entire diagram, it actually is telling you, okay, let's see, in case of continentality, temperature conditions, they will be more extreme. So you'll have extremes of temperature. When it is hot, it becomes very hot. When it is cold, it will cool down quite a lot. Okay? And we'll have less evaporation. All these things will take place. In case of marine type of area or coastal type of area, you will find that the temperature, the range of temperature will be narrow, and it will be much more moderate. It will not be extreme, unlike the land conditions. Okay, so please remember, just study a little bit on the specific heat capacity, why the specific heat capacity of water is more than that of land. तो इसके बारे में थोड़ा सा आप पढ़ाई करें. Now moving on to the last question for the day. Last question is from Indian geography, or even a part of world geography, you can say Southeast Asia. We are looking at South Asia and Southeast Asia. So over here, which one of the following pairs of islands is separated from each other by the 10-degree channel? So what is this 10-degree channel? It is basically a stretch of water which lies around the 10-degree latitude. So the question was asked in 2014, and it is asking which one of the pair of the following pairs of islands is separated from each other by the 10-degree channel. A. Andaman and Nicobar. B. Nicobar and Sumatra. C. Maldives and Lakshadweep. And D. Sumatra and Java. Okay? Andaman and Nicobar, Nicobar and Sumatra, Maldives and Lakshadweep, and we have Sumatra and Java. So let us see the map. I think I have given a map over here. So here you can see all these islands. All these islands together, they comprise the Andaman Islands. So you can see islands, for example, Middle Andaman is there. You will have South Andaman, you will have all these places, Little Andaman, and all these places are there. Similarly, in the middle of this, you have the 10-degree channel, and on the other side of the 10-degree channel, you have the Nicobar Islands. Okay, these areas, they are the Car Nicobar Island and all this. This is the Nicobar Island. So you have two groups of islands. One is the Andaman group of islands, the other is the Nicobar group of islands. और इन दोनों को divide कौन करता है? इनको divide किया जा रहा है by the 10-degree channel. It is this narrow stretch of water which is dividing the Andaman group of islands from the Nicobar group of islands. So first, your answer should ideally be A. 5A should be the answer. But at the same time, you should also know which are the other, what are the other lines of separation between, let's say, the other options. For example, when it comes to Nicobar and Sumatra. So here you have Nicobar Islands and iske niche you have Sumatra. So let's see which are the ones. Dekho, I think I have the diagram. Okay. So the diagram is not over here, but yes, you can see over here. Okay, the Nicobar and Sumatra, it is divided by the Great Channel. Okay, the name of the channel is the Great Channel. तो आप याद रखो कि ये जो Nicobar and Sumatra है, they are divided by the Great Channel. Okay, इनको कौन divide करता है? It is done by the Great Channel. The Great Channel is again the name of a stretch of water body. Second is Maldives and Lakshadweep. Maldives and Lakshadweep. You see over here, it is the 8-degree channel which will separate the islands of Minicoy. Minicoy, it is a part of Lakshadweep and Maldives. So let us first know about Minicoy. Minicoy Island, it is located to the south of the 9-degree channel. It is located to the south of the 9-degree channel. It is the largest island among the Lakshadweep group of islands. So जो Lakshadweep Islands है, which is like an archipelago consisting of a number of islands, उनमें से सबसे बड़ा जो island है, that is called as Minicoy. Minicoy is lying to the south of the 9-degree channel. It is the 8-degree channel which divides or which separates the island of Minicoy and Maldives. So please remember that it is the 8-degree channel. It is the 8-degree channel which divides Lakshadweep and Maldives. So Lakshadweep के अंदर ही you have Minicoy. 8-degree channel, तो आप थोड़ा सा याद रखना. C stands for channel over here. अच्छा, उसके बाद 9-degree channel. 9-degree channel, you can understand, it separates the island of Minicoy from the main Lakshadweep archipelago. 9-degree channel, it separates the island of Minicoy from. So 9-degree channel, उसके ऊपर you have the other islands of Lakshadweep. Then you have the 9-degree channel. उसके बाद you have the Minicoy Island. Minicoy Island के बाद you have 8-degree channel. और 8-degree channel के नीचे you have Maldives. ठीक है? And last option में क्या था? Last option में we had Sumatra and Java. So I think I have a diagram for this Sumatra and Java. तो देखो ये रहा आपका Sumatra और ये रहा Java. And दोनों को कौन divide कर रहा है? We have a narrow stretch of water body. तो ये जो narrow stretch of water body है, उसका नाम क्या है? Sunda Strait. This is the name of the narrow stretch of water body which divides Sumatra and Java. It is called as Sunda Strait. ये जो Sumatra है, Java है, all of these are islands of Indonesia. Indonesia is also an archipelago. So Sumatra and Java, they are separated by the Sunda Strait, and it is a narrow stretch of water body. Similarly, over here also I have mentioned, देखो Lakshadweep Islands are there. उसके नीचे you have the biggest island of Lakshadweep जिसका नाम है Minicoy Atoll. Minicoy Atoll और Maldives के बीच what do you have? You have the 8-degree channel. Minicoy and Maldives के बीच you have the 8-degree channel. ठीक है? Similarly, Andaman and Nicobar के बीच you have the 10-degree channel. So please remember all these small details. So answer should be A. That is Andaman and Nicobar के बीच में ही you have the 10-degree channel which divides Andaman and the Nicobar group of islands. Okay, so with this we complete the 5 questions for today, and I hope you have liked this discussion. So if you have, then please like the video, Please share it amongst your friends and please comment and let us know what you think of the video. At the same time, please subscribe to Apti Plus's YouTube channel for more such informative videos. So I'll be back with another episode of Prelims Warm Up. Till then, stay safe and study hard. Thank you so much.
I'm an icon, man. And my girl about a 10. I should fuck her in a Benz.